Thanks, Chair. I want to maybe continue on the points Deputy Moynihan was making about e-scooters. So my understanding is currently e-scooters are, it's not legal for anyone under the age of 16 to be using an e-scooter. I'm looking up the website now of one of the leading Irish toy manufacturers, retailers, and there are 5 e-scooters available, marketed. 3 of them are marketed from 6 to 8 years. 2 of them are marketed from 9 to 11 years, and 2 are marketed for big kids, whatever that is. And just looking up the specifications of them, one here now, the Gyro H40 electric scooter, age suitability 6 years plus. It has a max speed of 16 kilometres per hour, runtime of 40 to 60 minutes, product range of 8 kilometres. You've spoken about your kind of role in education and what you can do there, but if we have, I suppose, major manufacturers pushing these on parents and on kids, is there a role for a legislative response there in terms of a greater duty on these manufacturers?
I believe there is, Deputy, and I know that Minister Kenny has spoken to that particular point and the fact that they are so available, whether it be online, but more so in our own, I won't name any companies, but they are available to purchase and targeting them at children when they are illegal. And
is it a clear legislative ban on their sale to for under 16s? How would the RSA advise we proceed on this point?
Well, it's illegal. It's illegal that an under 16 is on an e-scooter.
Is on it, but is it illegal to sell at the moment under the current law?
My understanding is that it is illegal to sell to an under 16.
Yeah. So what's been marketed here, what I'm looking up online, what anyone can look up online is illegal.
It would seem so, yes.
Yeah. Okay. And on the point then of scooters, so moving away from something e-scooters marketed at children, but e-scooters that have a speed limit of greater than 20 kmph. My understanding is up to 20 kmph is legal. What is the legal status of a company in Ireland marketing an e-scooter with a speed above 20 kmph?
My understanding that will be illegal to, if it's an e-scooter, the legislation is quite clear, 20 kilometres per hour, anything above that is illegal.
And to your knowledge, have there been any prosecutions of retailers in Ireland for selling e-scooters either to young people below the age of 16 or e-scooters that do a speed greater than legally permitted?
Not that I would be aware of, Deputy.
Okay, thanks very much. I might just bring us back to kind of the broader point of where we stand with the RSA right now, because I've no doubt, Ms. Coleman, it's been difficult for yourself, your management team and your staff to hear the criticism that's come from out of these hearings over the last 6 months. And yet with 93 people dead on our road already this year, it is imperative that we're reviewing the state's response to the crisis on our roads, and your organisation is absolutely front line there. We had a situation where 2 years ago a major restructuring of your organisation was agreed by government. Take the operational elements, the NCTs, the licensing, the testing, let them be done by one organisation and allow the RSA focus on that key mandate of saving lives on our roads. Your own organisation welcomed that at the time. The new minister came in, he scrapped that programme of reforms, but he hasn't come forward with his own set of proposals as yet. So there is a fundamental disagreement about whether your organisation is currently best structured to save lives on our road. That's not the fault of any of you or of any of your employees, but that fundamental disagreement is very much central to the work this committee is doing right now. So 3 weeks ago, Minister Kenny was here and he said he was bringing forward a set of reforms for your organisation. Has he briefed you on what those reforms will be, and do you know when they will be publicly announced?
He hasn't briefed the executive team directly. He's been in contact with our chairperson and our board, and I understand there has been some over and back at that level. I know that he has made a commitment that he would be back with reforms in a number of weeks, and I understand that our chair will want to work with us on that in the coming weeks. So that's where it's at, and we understand the time pressures.
Yeah.
And
so
he has placed.
You haven't been given a timeline as yet as to when you'll be told what reforms are coming down the track?
No, but we anticipate that there is an urgency to it based on the fact that our minister has asked our chair to come back to him in the coming weeks. So we will obviously support our chair and our board and our minister with respect to any reforms he may be proposing.
What's the current total staffing of the RSA right now?
At the moment, we're just shy of 500 full-time equivalents across the organisation. We've over 62 drive-in test centres. Locations. So
if you don't mind, just because we're tight enough on time, in terms of the staff, could you give a sense of those 500 full-time equivalents?
Yes.
What element is directed towards the operational side versus what element, I suppose, is the road, the broader road safety side?
Very roughly now, Deputy, I would say 65% are directed towards operations across NCT, COVIS, driver theory test, admin support. I would say in and around 20% would be on what would have been deemed in the Endicon report as public interest or research. Standards, education, partnerships.
So around 100 then focusing.
And the remainder then would be your support services, your ICT, your HR, and your finance and your strategy areas. So it's in and around that. And I can obviously give you the figures.
And just my last question. You raised the importance of 30 kmph zones in urban areas. You asked for our support in implementing those. Last year, a decision was made not to make the 30 kmph zone the default setting in urban areas. It was said, let each local authority kind of make its own call. Did you think that was the right approach to take?
I suppose when it comes to 30k, the evidence is there that it does work. We would ask, and that's why when local authorities are approaching you all as deputies and senators, that you support them, because there is quite a breadth of work that has to be done by local authorities to get that in place. And I know there's been a date put in place of March 2027. So there will be, and we would hope, efforts made. The vulnerable road user numbers that we're seeing where people are dying on our roads in urban areas is absolutely
But that process has been really elongated now because it does have to be done local authority by local authority rather than as a default decision, yes?
Correct.
Yeah, thank you.
Correct.
Could I ask a little bit just about the funding of road safety operations and how this links with the wider funding of the organisation? The Endicon report from 2024, it said, just quote from it here, it's important to recognise that a small non-commercial agency of the state, such as the RSA, with a very wide range of responsibilities and limited powers and constrained resources, cannot on its own deliver the government's road safety strategy. And when she endorsed the Endicon report and the government decision, your outgoing chair, Liz O'Donnell, said the existing self-funding model was no longer sustainable. So can I ask, in terms of the engagement Minister Canny has had with your chair, do you know, is that going to involve extra funding for the organisation generally? And do you know how much of that funding is about covering the existing maybe deficits in terms of the operational side of things around licensing and testing, and how much of the extra funding will be specifically dedicated to the road safety and safety education elements of the organisation?
What I will say, I'm not aware if there are specific recommendations coming on reform around funding. What I will say is, what I can say is that we read that report and we saw that possibly what one would see as not possibly being the right thing to do, i.e. services funding public interest. It had meant in the years before that report had been issued that there was investment in road safety, in the education and awareness, the development of educational programmes. That had all been funded and was there based on the fact that we knew we had the money coming in from our services. It remains the case that we're self-funding. It remains the case that we do receive an element of exchequer funding for the payment of small element of pensions and in relation to our regulatory obligations under Automated Market Surveillance Authority, as well as now non-road mobile machinery, which will be coming our way in the new year. So we do receive some exchequer funding, but for the most part, that finding that was in Endicon is actually remains the case. The 18 million that is dedicated and ring-fenced for education and awareness comes from our own revenue. Does, you know, so that's...
But in terms of, so you haven't been given any clear signal as yet as to changes in elements of exchequer
no, Deputy,
funding?
we haven't,
Yeah.
no.
And
it may come. And
and in terms of the Minister's engagement with you, has he been looking, I suppose, to that the organisation would enhance its own resources through the level of charges that it levies for the various services, the operational services that it conducts?
Increasing resources, we are obliged to, as other state agencies, apply through our parent department on the annual cyclical staffing submission. So we've just completed that, and that is with DPER for them to consider, and our own parent department and management board. We ask for resources in key areas to deliver on key strategy objectives. We may or we may not get those approved. We provide details of how we would fund them, and if we have the money to do that. If we would depend on Exchequer to do that, the risks of not getting them. So as per every other state agency, that's how it works.
Deputy Law.